what can we say but God, right? Things are just falling apart, and yet somehow things hold together. As 2 Thessalonians said, things would continue to hold together until he who restrains things is taken out of the way, which is the Holy Spirit. And we believe, most of us I think, but anyway, I believe that's with the church as well. So he pulls us out of here. We are the pillar and the buttress of truth for the church and the world, right? The church is the pillar and the buttress, so when we're gone, things were going to change. 2 Timothy 3. But understand this, that in the last days there will become times of difficulty. We talked about this morning, and I want to start tonight just a little bit with this. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men opposed the truth. Remember the pillar of truth and the buttress of truth? Men corrupted in mind and disqualified regarding the faith. Back in Nehemiah, but when Sanballat and the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servant and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they jeered at us and despised us and said, "What is this thing that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king?" Now, the church is not Israel. The church has not taken Israel's stuff. The seed of Jacob and the seed of Abraham will come and claim the land and the tribes and the throne and all that stuff. The church is different, but we've been grafted in. However, it's not different enough not to be lambasted by the world. And they are going to do to us as they did to Israel. Notice the Arabs and the Ammonites, the Jordanians, which have always hated Israel, and the Horonite. Mark 10:25, is it enough? It is enough for the disciple to be like his teacher and the servant like his master, master of the house. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? I don't know if you're aware of this, but that is you who believe you're in the household. Now, most of us with gray hair, we've gotten away pretty peaceful the last 60 years more. It's been pretty nice, right? So Jesus is a liar, or it's here in the world and coming. Remember, Peter said things are going to get worse. But the good news is this: when a strong man fully armed guards his house, his possessions are secure. Who's guarding his house? Satan is guarding his house. But when someone stronger attacks and overpowers him, he takes away the armor in which the man trusted, and then he divides up his plunder. If Satan is divided and rises against himself, he cannot stand. His end has come. Indeed, no one can enter a strong man's house to steal his possessions unless he first ties up the strong man, then he can plunder his house. Jesus is going to come and tie up the strong man. And like I said this morning, he's not tied up. The devil is not tied up. He doesn't have a long rope. He is not tied up. And he's going to come down to earth at some point. 2 Timothy 3:9, but they will not get very far, for their folly will be plain to us all. We will be wise in the end times, as were those two men. Nehemiah 4:15, when our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had frustrated their plan, what did we do? We all returned to the wall, each to his work. So they know their end is coming. Satan knows his end is coming. We need to continue to work until the end. There's a convergence of these things. I just took a minute and just put down these things, the convergence of some of these things. More homosexuality, more AI, more opioid abuse deaths, pharmaceuticals, more illegal immigration, more personal and national debt, more hate toward Israel, more hate toward the church, less marriage, less church attendance, less love for God. These are the convergence of all things. Speaking of convergence, there was a significant amount of activity on the eastern, that would be over there, the eastern section of the Pacific. along the west coast of the United States, Alaska. It even later on went down into the Aleutian Islands and down into South America. A significant amount of stuff going on there. There was a significant earthquake in Turkey still, rumblings from the big one several months ago. And then Afghanistan and Pakistan area as well again. So significant, it's fairly active today, but that day was very active. Indonesia's Mount Ruang volcano erupts to 70,000 feet. Sydney, Australia, stabbing, 7 people dead. Any rumblings in the world? Google fired 28 employees on Wednesday who were involved in sit-in protests at Google offices in Sunnyvale. Remember what Harari said, that's the new Eden, the AI Eden, right? And New York City against a contract with the Israeli government. A Google spokesman said the workers were fired for physically impeding other employees' work and preventing them from accessing our facilities, which is completely unacceptable behavior. Google is firing employees for sitting in against Israel. Google. Now, I don't know what they're up to. I don't trust Google. I don't like Google, but that's what they did. What are the universities doing? This is in Paris. Look at this. This is a pro-Israeli march gathering in Paris. And you see the Arab flags there. Wasn't that interesting? Anti-Israel protests shut down the Golden Gate. Looks like a massive going on there, right? Not so much. Look how many people shut down the Golden Gate Bridge. A half a dozen or 10. It's like, what would you do if you were the mayor or state police there or sheriff? Haul them 10 out. I think we got 10 sets of handcuffs somewhere, right? Chicago O'Hare. Can't get to the airlines. Google is firing employees, and the state's governments, cities' governments are allowing this stuff to go on. This is in London today. This is a policeman talking to a Jewish man. This is at a Hamas protest, okay, Gaza protest. And this man is, you are quite openly Jewish. So this is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but your being here is a problem. You're clearly Jewish, and so I need to arrest you if you hang around. The man says, you're going to arrest me if I stay here? I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to arrest you basically for your own good. And that's where we're at. Look at this. This is 1938, Austria. The University of, I think, Vienna. The Nazis are keeping Jews from going into the universities. Colombia. A rabbi warns the Jewish students to flee the campus as anti-Semitic mobs rage unchecked in the universities, which Pastor Mason, and we've been talking about these things for the last couple years, that the universities are in bad shape. The events of the last few days, especially last night, have made it clear that Columbia University's public safety and the New York Police Department cannot guarantee Jewish students' safety in the face of extreme anti-Semitism and anarchy. It deeply pains me, this rabbi says, that I would strongly recommend you return home as soon as possible and remain home until the reality in and around campus has dramatically improved. It is not our job as Jews to ensure our own safety on campus. No one should have to endure the level of hatred, let alone at school. Now, I want to remind you, we're kind of trying to keep track of this. Think of what we just went through, just the last several slides. Google is firing employees because they're impeding work and this kind of stuff. Protesters are shutting down bridges. The cops finally came, got them off the bridges. As far as I know now, cars are going across the Golden Gate. Columbia is a mess. Other universities are a mess. What do you got going? You got a wrestling match. You got things getting worse, people not wanting to have to deal with it, a lot of people having to deal with it, and you've got really, it's still a minority, I think, of protesters and people who want to cause havoc. And yet they make the news. But it is a picture of what is coming. Second Thessalonians, 2 Timothy 3:1, that word, when things will get worse, that word is savagery. That word is, it's going to get brutal. And we're beginning to see this in our own nation. This is a picture of judgment, by the way. Burn Tel Aviv to the ground. Calls for violence continue at Columbia. Look what they say. Al Qasum, you make us proud. That's the brigade, the Hamas brigade. Kill another soldier now. We say justice. You say how. Burn Tel Aviv to the ground. We say justice. You say how. Burn Tel Aviv to the ground. Hamas, we love you. We support your rockets too. Red, black, green, and white. We support Hamas's fight. It is right to rebel. Al Qasum, give them HE double toothpicks. And so this is happening in our nation. This kind of hate, this hate is happening in our nation. Meanwhile, against the church, Bishop Mari Emmanuel was preaching at Christ the Good Shepherd Church in Wakeley in Sydney's West on Monday, just after 7 p.m., when a man dressed in black walked up to the altar and stabbed him multiple times. And so I'm not going to show this video, but he was stabbed. Here he is. There's the stabber, the guy with the knife. He's smiling. He's happy. This is demonic. This is demonic. Now, every once in a while we'll see shootings in churches in the United States. Most churches, a lot of churches have beefed up security. This stuff is happening, and it just continues to happen. It's not slowing. After the attack, okay, in Sydney, this is after the attack. Watch what the crowds come out. They've got the cops got him in, this man inside, okay? Watch what the people are shouting. Bring him out! Bring him out! Bring him out! It is still my contention that this is the minority in the West. And yet, it is going to grow. We've given them seed, especially in Europe. They have 25 million, 30 million Arabs and Muslims in Europe. That's still only a small percentage. But how do you stop 20 to 30 million people? Okay? And again, it's not all 20 and 30, but now in the United States, it's 1 to 2%. You've got some Westerners who have been filtered into this, and they're taking parts of this stuff. So let's say you have 3%, 4%. Well, I'm not sure. But how many of us Westerners don't want this and don't even like it? Even many of the Democrats. Okay, we call the Democrats names. We call the pure leftists, the progressives, and those. But we, like Dan, our elder today, and I were talking about Fetterman. Have you been keeping up with Fetterman? When he signed up to be a senator, and they were going to vote for him and stuff, and I'm looking at this guy going, oh man, what a cretin, what a cretin. And he's even Dan came in this morning and said, this guy's more of a moderate than we've seen in a long time. Now, he's still got some progressive ideas. There's no doubt about it. And he dresses like I do on Saturday, so a bum, But he's not for hate. He's not for debt. He's concerned about some of our stuff in the United States. So So there's some moderates. There's even, but the Republican Party is falling apart. We've got the far right. I'm telling you, the far right in the Republican Party is a problem. I'm just going to say that, and let it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is leading the way. They can't get anything done. However, Jack Hibbs came on. I don't know if you saw him. Jack Hibbs came on over on Friday, I think, or Thursday, and put out a video. And he was talking to some politicians, some Christians, and the Speaker of the House Johnson is a very good Christian, and he loves Israel. Okay, that's all I know about him. I'm taking it from Jack. Jack knows people who knows him personally. He's met him. He's worked, a little bit with him, and so he's doing the best he can. All right, and the right wingers want to shut it down because there's no money for the borders and some of these other things, which we agree with, right? We want money for security for the borders, but we can't get the borders things passed, so we just need to leave Israel off the table and not deal with the Ukraine thing and stuff. And Johnson is saying, wait a minute. And he said, I need to work on Israel's behalf. And I need to work on the United States' behalf here. So Johnson, he won. He did very good this weekend, and I agree with it. I'm not all in on the Ukraine thing. I squirm, because if we're not, Russia is probably going to win. But again, we just have to kind of play that out. But and then, continuing to give Israel a lot of money over and over and over when we're not taking care of the border and those things is a huge problem. It is a big problem. But if you're not doing that, you're not doing anything in the house. You're not getting anything done. And he did. And so I think that's a good thing. Our politics is messed up, our economics, our borders. We are a divided country. The state of Texas has an extremely high number of people registering to vote. According to U.S. government data, in March alone, over 500,000 people registered to vote. And it looks like they're mostly voting blue, those new ones. That is a big problem. Texas had more voters registered in March than California had the entire year. Other states with unusually high numbers include Pennsylvania, Missouri, and Michigan. And so we're just going to have to wait and see this to continue to play out. Yesterday, California's Senate Democrats rejected a bill to make purchasing a 16 or 17-year-old for sex. They made it's still a misdemeanor. This lady brought it forward. I'm not going to play her video. She brought it forward, and they rejected it. And it's a sad deal. Fact check. Biden makes false and misleading claims during the Pennsylvania campaign. In Biden's most eyebrow-raising remarks of the campaign swing, he told and then retold a story in which he strongly suggested his late uncle, Ambrose Finnegan, was eaten by cannibals after his plane was shot down while he fought in World War II. Biden's dramatic details don't match the Defense Department's official account of the plane crash. In the same Tuesday speech in Scranton, Biden repeated his regular promise that nobody making less than $400,000 a year will pay even a cent more in tax proposed. He added, "I hope you're all able to make $400,000. I never did." I never did. His lips are moving. That means he's probably lying. Biden doesn't understand the Catholic faith. So this bishop came out and said, we have to forgive him. I'm not angry with him. He's just stupid. Now, listen, I've said that term a few times, and every once in a while I think it's applicable. There was one time I probably shouldn't have said it, and I ask for forgiveness for those times if you remember them. If you don't, that's your problem. But when you say he's just stupid, the president, at least he didn't call him a fool, I guess, according to the scriptures. But the Catholic priest is calling him stupid. Real quick, in Africa, U.S. troops in Niger say they're stranded. This was several days ago. They were stranded. They closed down the base. They weren't letting anybody leave. Niger is sick and tired of the United States being in their nation. Why? Because they had a coup about 6 months ago or something. The left took over. They want the United States out. They want the Russians in. So this is today. The U.S. military will begin plans to withdraw. So now the United States has said, okay, we're done. We got to leave. They couldn't come to an agreement with Niger. Guess who's taken over? The Russians. Now, this is a picture. It's not a great picture, but just I want to show you the line. There's actually a water pipeline that goes from the Red Sea area all the way over to the Atlantic Ocean. That's a water pipeline. Look where it goes through. The Sahel. It's called the Sahel. Sahel means coast. So this area, the Sahel, runs from coast to coast, and it is a transition area between the desert in the north and the tropics in the south, okay? So it is, depending on the season, wet or dry, and it's not a greatest place to live. And so there's a water pipeline through there. Now, look where it runs through. Sudan, which is bad. Chad, which is bad. Niger, which is bad. Mali, which is so-so. And then it gets to the Pacific Ocean, and we're sitting in some fairly decent countries there. Look at another one. I want to show you another here. Look at now Algeria, Niger, and Nigeria, okay? Look where they're lined up there. Algeria's in the north, Nigeria's in the south, Niger's in the middle, in the Sahel area, okay? And there's a pipeline going through from Nigeria, which is extremely oil rich, probably the richest country in Africa, the largest military in Africa. It is doing very well. And it wants to export that oil and gas through Niger and through Algeria. So watch, you got the water pipeline, and then you got the major gas pipeline that is being built now. The Nigerian, the rich country, and Algeria, the orange one there, they're gonna pay for about 90% of this pipeline. Niger is gonna pay for about 9%. Niger. But look what happens if they don't do it. It doesn't get done, right? This is important here. So 80% of Africa's gas production is in those three countries: Egypt, Algeria, and Nigeria. Okay? So you see what's in between all them? Who's in between all them? Russia. Russia's in Libya. Russia's in Niger, in Algeria, and some other countries. They're trying to get into Nigeria in a bigger way. There's Russia's military presence in Africa and arms exports. The darker the red, the worse. So you can see around there. Russia is in Libya and Chad and Nigeria, somewhat, Mali and some other ones, but they're significantly in Algeria and up north there. Okay? Arms exports and those kinds of things. So my point here is that the Russians are working to get the United States kicked out of there. Then they're going to work next on the French and the British. The British, just generally, the British have more say or power, if you will, economic power in particular in the West. And the French have a lot of power. Remember, this used to be a lot of it used to be French Empire. So anyway, the French are being kicked out of there by Russia a little bit more at a time. All right? Let's go to Ukraine here real quick. Zelensky won big. On Saturday, the House of Representatives approved spending $60 billion to help Ukraine build up its defense against Russia. Republicans were not unanimous, with 101 voting in favor of the bill and 112 voting against it. Speaker Johnson unveiled the foreign aid plan earlier in this week, though a lack of any border security measures prompted allies to be wary of letting the bill move forward. And I understand that. We all understand that, right? We don't like the idea, and I can't remember what they call it, but you have a bill and they say, well, let's pack on this stuff. And they all pack on a bill, and it has very little to do with Ukraine, and it has a whole lot to do with can I have the state feed my dog, or something, those kind of stupid stuff get added to these bills. So Biden wasn't going to do anything, and the Democrats weren't going to do anything with this if they packed on money to take care of the border. So what do? Don't do anything? Johnson and some others are not all for going in full bore with Ukraine. We see a need to help Ukraine, and yet at some point we need to help ourselves first. And that's the problem. But as it is with politics, I'm glad I'm not in his shoes. I'm glad I'm not doing this stuff. The bill, with the Word of God, it's kind of like, remember what Paul said, you're an ambassador of Christ. So it's like you walk around with this promised seal, and you work for the king, right? You got the king behind you. You got the Word of God. You carry around the Bible. Hopefully it's big enough to choke a mule. And you're unafraid with it because you've got all the backing in the universe, right? When you're a politician or something like that, who are you working for? Hopefully you're working for Jesus, but you got to do this kind of stuff. We need to be fearless. So the bill provides $61 billion to Ukraine, $23 billion to replenish weapons, stocks, and facilities, $26 billion for Israel, includes $9 billion for humanitarian needs, and $8 billion for the Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan. So Israel gets a big plus as well. And this is the deal. I think we're going to talk about the Iranian Israeli thing here in a bit. And I believe that Blinken and Biden is talking to Netanyahu and say, there's a bill coming up. You want some aid? Then don't go full in on Iran. And so all of that's being played in out here. So the U.S. states, now these are the U.S. states producing weapons that go to Ukraine. Pennsylvania is the biggest one, and most of that is ammunition, shells, artillery shells. But you can see Arkansas and Florida is big there. Down in the southwest, look at California, Arizona, New Mexico, and then some other, many others. So thought that was interesting. Now, Putin shared a surprising advice with his Iranian counterpart, and these two are thick as thieves right now. There is no separating Iran and Russia from now on, unless you take Putin out and his cronies. There's just not going to be any separation. The garden has been laid, and the thorns have been separated from the flowers, if you want, Gary, or whatever you want to say. The bed's been made. The teams have been chosen. Ibrahim Raisi noted that Iran's actions were forced and limited. He's the president of Iran, not the Ayatollah. He's the president. At the same time, he stressed Tehran's disinterest in further escalation of tensions. So he said, we had to attack, but we don't want we don't want to escalate. And the Kremlin added, both sides stated that the root cause of the current events in the Middle East is the unresolved Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Now, I want to remind everybody that the Palestinians have never skipped a chance to skip a chance, right? Never passed an opportunity to pass up an opportunity. They've taken every opportunity to shoot this down. Arafat and them way back then could have taken the deal, and this could have been cleared up. All right? So the world is blinded to the fact that if Palestine became a state with Israel, two-state solution, they would go further to take out Israel. Okay? They would just keep going. In this regard, the principled approaches of Russia and Iran in favor of an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, easing the difficult humanitarian situation and creating conditions for a political and diplomatic settlement of the crisis was confirmed. The Kremlin concluded, adding that the call discussed in details the airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus. Hamas, and I think I have a slide here, but Hamas has said no deal lately. They've said no deal. They were close to a deal. Qatar, who's been heading this thing, has so much pressure on it right now that they are changing some, and we're going to see a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But Hamas has said no deal on the latest one. Just kind of a side note here, 50 Nova Music Festival survivors have committed suicide in the face of massive evidence of Hamas's gang rapes, torture, mutilation of its victims everywhere since October 7th. Western elites from the UN to the universities of Hollywood have been silent. Many have denied what happened. Think how that makes a survivor feel and ask whether the indifference and hatred that has greeted Israel and the survival since October 7th may have been contributing to the unbearable suffering of survivors. And so the victim rate just continues to go up. Israel made significant strides in the proposal it submitted regarding a deal, which Hamas rejected. Hamas is the obstacle to reaching a ceasefire in Gaza. Look where this comes out. The U.S. State Department, Biden's State Department, Blinken, has said Hamas is the problem. And yet everybody is blaming Israel and the United States. Just a side note, I'm going to keep tabs on Lebanon. Lebanon's still going at it. Israel's taking it to them. The Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon continue to fire at Israel. Back to Iran. Bloomberg reveals the entire IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps command wing in Syria, was eliminated on that attack in Damascus several weeks ago. The Bloomberg television network revealed overnight into Saturday that in the attack attributed to Israel at their Iranian consulate in Syria, the entire command hierarchy responsible for the activities of the Revolutionary Guard Corps in Syria and Lebanon were killed. According to the report, the senior officers were pivotal for Hezbollah's activities in the region. So this one, Iran could not stand by, because this was way too big, even bigger than Soleimani, and they took action which didn't do any damage except to an Israeli base in the desert. Nobody was hurt, nobody was injured. The strike at the Iranian consulate in Syria led Iran for the first time to respond directly and attack Israel. Immediately after assassination, Iran began suspecting that groups in Syria were involved in several assassination cases of the IRGC personnel in the country over the past few years. Iran's suspicion focuses on 18 commanders, 18 commanders, who were assassinated over a short time in attacks that were attributed to Israel. This is according to a Syrian defector who opposed the Assad regime, who claims to have spoken with the Iranian officials. And so Israel, Israel is knocking on Iran's door in Syria and in Lebanon and in Iraq. Remember, there was a significant attack in Baghdad about 3 weeks ago where they took out another commander and his crony. So these bodies just keep stacking up. And Iran is just sitting back and taking it. And on this one, they said, well, we need to go direct. And send a message to who? Not to Israel, really. To the world and to their own people, saying, we can do this. And yet they can't do anything. What Iran's attack on Israel revealed about its weapons arsenal. Iran basically threw everything it had that could reach Israel's territory. Tehran used some of every system they have. The firing over 100 ballistic missiles in the space of a few minutes suggests Iran has at least 100 launchers. This shows that Iran has really faced no limitation in domestically producing missiles and launchers, and that goes for UAVs and drones and these kinds of things. So there's the weapons that were sent, the number of weapons of ballistic missiles and other things, drones there on the right. Of the 100 or so ballistic missiles launched yesterday from Iran, 5 hit the Nevatim base at the IDF spokesman confirmed today. That was in the desert. In the attached clip, you can clearly see 4 missiles and understand from the explosions that there was at least one more. In seconds, 34 to 36, you can see are intercepted. Is this an advanced Iranian missile that can accelerate just before hitting the target? If so, it's not a simple ballistic missile, but much more advanced model. So it looks like they shot basically everything they had. Now let's talk about their jets, or real briefly. We think, well, why weren't any aircraft? Because Israel used their F-35s. They don't have those aircraft. They have 6, seems like they have 6 sophisticated aircraft. They've got more coming from Russia, but we're finding out that whatever they're getting from Russia is not the top of the line. We're gonna, I think, yeah, I got a picture here. I'll show you why Israel is so much far ahead here. Real briefly though, this is a joint statement on the Islamic Republic of Iran's attack on the state of Israel, and the permanent representatives of the United States and all those countries condemned this attack on Iran. Okay. So now think of the division in the world, right? All these countries condemned that attack. None of these countries condemned the attack by Israel once they did it. And we say, well, see, Israel's sitting in a good spot, right? Many Iranian missiles failed to even launch. They crashed before striking targets. So if it is indeed more advanced models, this raises the question of whether the 5 missiles that hit the base in the Nevatim are indeed capable of bypassing Israel's aerial defense system. This is one of the things the IDF is busy checking before launching its counterattack. So you can tell this was a week or so ago. But suffice it to say, that was the only base. Nobody got hurt, and really none of the major parts of the facility were damaged. After this, Malawi says we're going to set up an embassy in Israel. The United Nations security members voted on recognizing Palestine as a member state of the United Nations. 12 countries supported it. Britain and Switzerland abstained. The USA was the only one that vetoed it. And you only need one. Now this is the Security Council. This is not the big white council. These are the 12 countries that are the most powerful and have the most of the money, most of the security. And so, but 12 countries supported it. And you see this? Where all of these people are going to condemn Iran for attack. And then they're going to say, well, let's make Palestine a statehood so we can fix the problem. And the world is blind, absolutely blind. The Palestinian Authority Chairman Abbas, the American veto at the UN on the recognition of a Palestinian state was disappointing. We will reconsider our relations with the United States. He will reconsider right up to the point where Biden writes him a check, and then he'll be just fine with it, okay? The Hill, the House approves a resolution condemning the Palestinian rallying cry as anti-Semitic. The chamber voted 377 to approve, that's really good. 43 progressives and 1 Republican opposed. Who's that Republican? And 1 Democrat voted present. Now, you see what we're at? We're pro-Israel, but we want 2 states. We're we're pro-Israel, but we need to not take it out so hard on Iran. And the sanctions, yeah, we're okay with the sanctions. The sanctions are doing no good. All of this kind of stuff. The world is in chaos. There's nobody who has any kind of wisdom whatsoever, really. Netanyahu has quite a bit of it. He's making some mistakes, but Israel launches a retaliatory strike. So there's the strike on Iran. 9 targets near Tabriz and Isfahan were attacked early this morning. 6 Israeli F-35s were seen above Syria and Iraq prior to the attack. Iranian report in IRGC Telegram channel. The UAVs were used to destroy the S-300 air defense system. The S-300 air defense system, which was around the Isfahan base, is the most sophisticated air defense system they have. The Russians have a 400, quite a few 400s, and they're making, I think it's already in service, but they only got a few 500s, okay? So Iran has, again, the secondhand stuff from Russia, and it doesn't hold a candle. So, now think about it. Nobody was killed in Israel. Almost everything was shot down. We have the United States and the French and all kinds of people helping Israel, even Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Iran has nobody except Russia, and that's where we stand. And so we say Ezekiel 38's war is going to start tomorrow. No, it's not. No, it's not. We're not even close. Now, I want to say this. When I say close, there's no available way right now. Could the available way, could the door open real quickly? Yes, but something dramatic would have to happen on the earth. It would have to happen in a huge way. Iran stood all alone here with Russia saying, we're right behind you all the way. And Russia didn't shoot down anything, but the French and the UK and like I said, everybody else did. The Arabs did on Israel's behalf. So where are we at in the timeline? I want you to gird your loins and be ready for what may be coming down the line. I want you to be strong and courageous. Satellite images confirm the radar of the S-300 air defense system was destroyed. And there's a picture, the one on the left, and then the picture on the right shows that it is empty. It's gone. The senior U.S. military sources, the target of the Israeli strike was an Iranian military base in Isfahan near Natanz, not the nuclear facility itself. It's next to the nuclear facility. Sending a message. The targets within the strike included Iranian air defense systems at the air base, including those used to protect their nearby nuke facilities. It was a message to the Iranians. We can reach out and we can touch you. The Russian-made air defense systems were shown to be ineffective. There was one target, but multiple strikes within that target. The Israelis used missiles and unmanned aircraft. In other words, no manned aircraft, F-35s or others, were used as part of this strike. Now, I wonder if I can disagree with that just a little bit. They did not go into Iranian airspace, but there were F-35s over Iraqi airspace. It seems. All right. Israeli weapon damaged Iranian air defenses without being detected. And so, anyway, that's it. The Washington Post, the Israeli attack on Iran was intended to signal to Iran that Israel has the ability to attack its nuclear facilities. Iranian media is engaged in a massive propaganda effort to prove that nothing happened, not to admit that they were surprised and unable to stop it, not to have safe face and respond, a move that will escalate the situation. An Iranian official told Reuters there's no plan for an immediate response. It's not clear who is behind the attack. The Iranians are saying, we don't know what happened. That's basically what they're saying. Putin says this. He condemns the terrorist act of the Zionist regime. Okay, and this is the reason I'm putting this here. He's now calling Israel a terrorist state. Against the consulate of the Islamic Republic, calling it a breach of international law. The Islamic Republic of Iran's action in response to this criminal act and in light of the inaction of the Security Council was the best way to punish the aggressor and express the wisdom and rationality of the Iranian leaders. We are confident that the Islamic Republic of Iran is one of the main pillars of stability and security in the region. You see how everybody has chosen their dancing partners, all right? The music is warming up, and everybody's chosen their partners. And all we have to do is for God to say, let me play a trumpet. Okay, so let's go to Turkey here. Ismail Haniyeh's name, whatever, visit to Erdogan's palace in Turkey is not accidental. He is head of Hamas. It can be estimated that after the Qataris showed them the door out, we'll get to that, they will move to Turkey. And the next step will be an attempt to integrate them into the negotiations for the release of the abductees. Turkey is looking for influence, free of values and inhibitions, another step on the collision course with Israel and the values of the free world. For all Bible believers, it's clear a war with Turkey is inevitable. So, the head of Hamas was in, remember the Kush Hotel in Qatar. Qatar is kind of ahead of making headway for Hamas. They're not making headway. Hamas is not coming around. The Arabs are getting tired of it. And I believe that Qatar may be getting tired of it as well. They tried to work with the Egyptians. It didn't work. They tried to work with Turkey. It didn't work. The Qatar is getting kind of fed up here. It's going to be interesting to watch Qatar. Remember,